overflow of chi that runs into the extraordinary meridians irrigates the space between the skin and the muscles and originates from the space between the kidneys. So think about that, right? Put your hand on your sacrum, on your low back, and, think 8 cells, and your spinal cord is an overflow of, your brain is an overflow of your spinal cord, and then your spine going up. So think about that, right? So it's really important to remember that where do you get your jing? Where do you get your essence? The space between your kidneys. And your kidneys are actually a little bit higher up than you might think. If you take your fist and put it on your back, mid-back it's not quite as low as you might think. And so there is a qigong technique where you kind of like spin around and then bang your back right on your kidney with your fist, and you just swing around to the other side and you kind of hit it. And it's supposed to increase your your courage, like your willpower, not your courage. Because that is the emotion related to the kidney, willpower. So you're strengthening that. You're strengthening your essence. In women, how do we deplete our essence? How do we deplete our jing? Through our tiangui, our menstrual blood. As men, how do we deplete our jing? Through our sperm. So I don't know why I said our, because through their sperm. So maybe I was one in another life. Basically, the extraordinary vessels are the root. So we have to, I'll get into that later when we study pathologies and Zongfu theory and all that stuff. But, we're going to get into it a bit here with Ren and Chong Mai, because they're very gynecological meridians. We use them for tons of gynecological issues. That's actually these meridians that I'm teaching you are really a huge reason why acupuncture became so commonplace for fertility. So that's all I'm going to say for now. The extraordinary vessels are the root of the great avenue of pre-heaven. The governing, directing, and penetrating Du, Ren, and Chong are the source of creation. And it is interesting, as it probably this is Giovanni talking, and it probably refers to he likes to talk, just like me, probably refers to the role of Du, Ren, and Chong in embryology as energetic blueprints along which the channels are formed. And it's funny reading this now, knowing what I know, right? Because in 2013, 15 years ago or whatever, I had the knowledge I had then was so not what I have today. So I'm reading this with a completely different perspective. I'm getting what he was trying to put down now. Before, you just sort of like go with it, but you don't really understand like what he's trying to say here. This and what I'm trying to say too to you in my theory, and it's new, is that these were added, right? This is the 12 main meridian systems was your original DNA. This DNA was added. And this is your star system. This is the DNA that connects you to the stars. This is my own theory that's evolving as I'm reading this stuff now today. So we'll get into that. The extraordinary vessels and the Wei Qi, or defensive qi. The extraordinary vessels circulate defensive or Wei Qi over the thorax, abdomen, and back. This is a function that is performed especially by Du, Ren, and Chong. In fact, Du Mai obviously influences Wei Qi as it governs all yang energies and moreover controls the yang channels in the back, which have a protective function. The penetrating vessel, being the sea of the 12 channels, controls all channels in particular all connecting channels, which flow in the superficial layers of the body with the Wei Qi, or defensive Qi. The extraordinary vessels' role in circulation of Wei Qi is another way in which these vessels integrate various types of Qi that would otherwise not be integrated. The extraordinary vessels originate from the space between the kidneys and relate to the essence, and as we have seen, they irrigate the space between the skin and the muscles where defensive Qi circulates. Therefore, we can see that through the extraordinary vessels, the kidney essence plays a role in the defense from exterior pathogenic factors in the space between the skin and muscles. So I know it gets redundant. He repeats himself a lot, but there is a reason for this. So just keep on. Nutritive Qi comes from the middle burner, and the defensive Qi comes from the lower burner. Since the extraordinary vessels circulate defensive chi, which protects the body from the exterior pathogenic factors, they also play a role in the body's resistance to pathogenic factors. As all extraordinary vessels derive from the kidneys, this also explains the important role played by the kidneys in the resistance to pathogenic factors and the connection between the kidneys, the kidney essence, and wei qi or defensive qi. So we have the extraordinary vessels and the life cycles. Du Mai, Ren Mai, and Chong Mai regulate the 7-8-year cycles of women and men's lives, respectively. These life cycles are described in the simple questions, right? Su Wen, Huang De Neijing, Su Wen, chapter 1. Basically, they describe the ebb and flow of essence as the basis for sexual maturation and decline, and obviously correspond to the hormonal life changes in Western medicine. For example, the simple question says that at 14 in a girl, the Tiangui arrives, the directing vessel circulates well, the penetrating vessel is flourishing, she begins her periods, and she can therefore bear children. At the age of 49, the directing vessel begins to become empty, the penetrating begins to decline, menstruation stops, and she cannot bear children any longer. Similarly, for men, Tiangui refers to this precious essence that forms menstrual blood in women and sperm in men. This precious essence is a direct transformation of the kidney essence. Thus, the extraordinary vessels, and in particular the governing Du, Ren, and Chong, are the vehicles through which the kidney essence is transformed into Tiangui, which is responsible for sexual maturation and decline. The 8 extraordinary vessels integrate the 6 extraordinary yang organs: brain, uterus, blood vessels, gallbladder, marrow, and bones, with the internal organs and main channels. The word qi in qi guai zhi fu, extraordinary yang organs, is the same as in qi jing ba mai, extraordinary vessels. The kidneys are the connection between the extraordinary vessels and internal organs, and also between the extraordinary yang organs and internal organs. Hence, the extraordinary vessels are a vehicle through which the extraordinary yang organs are connected and integrated with the internal organs in the body's physiology. Thus, the extraordinary vessels are connected to the internal organs via the extraordinary yang organs. Otherwise, they would be like water without a source, or wood without a root. We can therefore see a closed circle of relationships. Specifically, the correspondence between the extraordinary vessels and extraordinary yang organs is as follows: brain, Du Mai, yin and yang stepping vessels; uterus, Chong Mai and Ren Mai; blood vessels, Chong Mai; gallbladder, Dai Mai. That's the only one that circles like a hula hoop around the waist. And the pathology in the classics says that Dai Mai pathology can feel like wading through water, wearing a belt with like 100 coins in it or something, just heaviness around the waist. Penetrating and marrow, Chong and Du Mai. That's bone marrow we're talking about, Chong and Du Mai. Bones, Chong, Du, and Ren. The extraordinary vessels and the 6 extraordinary yang organs. This extraordinary vessels integrate the extraordinary yang organs with the internal organs. The brain, like I just mentioned, I'm not going to repeat that because you just heard it. So the brain is the sea of marrow, the chest, the sea of qi, the stomach, the sea of blood, and Chong Mai, also sea of blood. And there are points that fall along, we have the point for brain marrow, which is Du 20, right? And then Du 16. And so there's different points: sea of qi, stomach 9, Ren 17. So that's kind of what he's talking about here. But we're talking about the extraordinary vessels related to the 4 C's, which is something that I think is a bit advanced right now. So we'll get into that later. I just wanted to touch on it. The fact that the Chong Mai corresponds to the sea of food confirms that this vessel is closely linked to the stomach, and it therefore links the pre-heaven with the post-heaven qi. Pathogenic factors in the extraordinary vessels show in the orifices. So the eyes, pathogenic factors in the extraordinary vessels show in orifices like the eyes. You'll see you can treat the pathology of the eye through the yin and yang stepping vessels. You can treat pathology of the nose and mind through Du Mai. You can treat the pathology of the mouth through pathology of the nose and mind through Ren Mai, and pathology of the mouth through Du Mai, pathology of the ears through Yang linking vessel, and pathology of the urethra and anus through Du and Chong Mai, and pathology of the mind through Yin Wei Mai. So the EMs is what we're going to start calling them, because I call them extraordinary meridians. Regulate flow from main channels, regulate excess of yang or of yin. They link the yin channels and the yang channels. They balance yin and yang in the trunk and head. They balance left and right, above and below. And they're interiorly and exteriorly and back and front. They integrate various structures into channel system and internal organs. They are reservoirs for qi related to the kidneys, related to wei qi or defensive qi. I keep saying tree. Control life cycles, integrate the 6 extraordinary yang organs, integrate the four C's, and control the orifices. They also regulate, balance, and have an integrating function. So Du, Ren, and Chong Mai can be considered as 3 branches of the same vessel. The Mirror of Medicine, abstracted by Master Lu, says the penetrating, directing, and governing vessels are 3 branches from the same source. The penetrating vessel is the sea of blood, the directing vessel governs all yin channels, and the governing vessel governs all yang channels. All these 3 vessels originate directly from the space between the kidneys and flow down to the perineum, Ren 1, from where they take different pathways. Ren Mai, the directing vessel, flows up the abdomen along the midline. Du Mai, the governing vessel, up the back, and Chong Mai up the abdomen along the kidney channel. These 3 vessels can be seen as the source of all the other extraordinary vessels, as they originate directly from the kidneys and are therefore connected to the essence. They, more than the other extraordinary vessels, can be used in clinical practice to affect the patient's energy at a deep constitutional level. The classic of categories, Lei Jing, 1624 by Zhang Jingwei, says, Ren Mai starts at Zhongji. Zhongji is the name for the point of the directing vessel that is 1 chin above the pubic bone. Underneath this point is the uterus. Du, Ren, and Chong all start from the uterus and emerge at Ren 1. From Ren 1, Huaiyin, the directing vessel flows up the abdomen, Du Mai up the back, and the penetrating vessel Chong Mai connects with the kidney channel and disperses in the chest. The penetrating vessel flows up the pubic bone to Ren 4, Guan Yuan, up inside the abdomen to the throat and into the eyes, following the directing vessel pathway. Yin and Yang Chao Mai. The 2 stepping vessels are directly complementary. The Yin Chao Mai starts at kidney 6 and flows up the eye, carrying yin qi to it. The Yang stepping vessel starts at bladder 62 and flows up to the eye, carrying yang qi to it. Thus, when the qi is in excess in the yin chao mai, the person will be constantly sleepy and the eyes will want to close. While when qi is in excess in the yang chao mai, the person is awake and the eyes are open. The 2 stepping vessels also control the state of the muscles of the legs. When the yin chao mai vessel is diseased, the yin is tight and the yang is relaxed. The muscles of the inner aspect of the leg are tight and those of the outer aspect too relaxed. When the yang stepping vessel is diseased, the yang qi is tight and the yin is relaxed. The muscles of the inner aspect of the leg are relaxed and those of the outer aspect of the leg tight. I was dealing with that the other day because I have quite open hips. I sit in the splits a lot when I'm reading, but I tend to suffer from outside of my leg was tight all the way, from my hip down, even up into my neck, right? And instead of needling just GB34, obviously opening Yang Chao Mai would have been, or is a better solution in my opinion now. The 2 stepping vessels harmonize left and right, medial lateral structures of the yin and yang respectively, and can therefore be used to correct structural imbalances in the body, such as one leg shorter than the other, one scapula higher than the other, unilateral sweating, or the muscles on one side being tighter than the other. One indication of kidney 2, Rangu, is 1 foot hot and the other cold. Yin and Yang Wei Mai, the Yang and Yin linking vessels. complement each other insofar as that they link yin and yang channels. In addition, their opening points belong to the lesser yang and terminal yin channels, the triple burner and pericardium, respectively, which are internally and externally related. And we will go over all that in Zongfu theory, I promise. The two linking vessels harmonize interior, exterior, and nutritive qi and defensive qi. And then Daimai, our girdle vessel, stands on its own as it is the only horizontal channel of the body, like I said, the hula hoop. It encircles the main channels, and because of this, it exerts an influence on the circulation of qi to the legs, dividing the body into two halves. It harmonizes above and below. Thus, the extraordinary vessels form an energetic vortex of the whole body that develops from the kidneys, in much the same way as the embryo develops along a central axis. The moment a sperm enters the ovum, it determines a ventral and dorsal surface, which are the directing and governing vessels respectively. When the cell first divides, it determines a left and right side, which are the yin and yang stepping vessels, an above and below, penetrating and girdle vessels, an exterior and exterior, yin and yang linking vessels, and a front and back, directing and governing, Du and Ren Mai. Thus, far from being secondary vessels, the extraordinary vessels are the primary energetic forces along which the whole system, or the whole body, and the other channels are formed. It is for this reason that Lu Shizhen called them the source of creation. The extraordinary vessels form like a vortex of energy emanating from the center of the body, from the space between the kidneys, where the motive force, Dong Qi, resides. The penetrating vessel is the center of this energetic force, Chong Mai, as it is also the sea of the 5 yin and 6 yang organs, the sea of blood, and the sea of the 12 channels, the meaning of which will be explained in chapter 53. So we're going to make a second video on all of the more medical, pathological. This is just the introduction, believe it or not. And it starts from between the kidneys. That is Chong. The qi and blood of the Chong Mai are then distributed all over the body in small channels at the defensive qi energetic level. When its qi reaches kidney 6, kidney 9, bladder 62, bladder 63, and gallbladder 26, it gives rise to the yin stepping vessel, yin linking vessel, yang stepping vessel, and yang linking vessel, and Daimai girdle, respectively. Thus, the penetrating vessel can be seen as the origin of these 5 extraordinary organs. Chong Mai, that is. The Du and Ren Mai vessels determine and define the coronal plane of the body. The girdle vessel defines the transverse. The yang step and link, and the yang stepping and linking vessels define the sagittal plane. And in ancient texts, the extraordinary vessels were often compared to a family nucleus as follows, taken from the Great Compendium of Acupuncture, 1601. Father, Chong; mother, Inwei; husband, Du; wife, Yong Chao; son, Yang Wei; daughter, Dai Mai; host, Ren Mai; guest, In Chao. And do bear in mind, says Giovanni, that the Confucian social customs prevalent in China at the time, being the father, the penetrating vessel, the center of the family nucleus, therefore the most important of the 8 extraordinary vessels, the vortex of qi created by the extraordinary vessels. And the Chong Mai, the penetrating vessel, is at the center of it. So to review, we have Du and Ren Mai, front and back; Chong Mai, Chong and Dai Mai, vertical and horizontal; yin and yang stepping vessels, medial and lateral, and left and right; one of the yin, the other of the yang; yin and yang linking vessels, interior and exterior; yin and yang nutritive and defensive qi. The yang linking vessel controls the exterior, heaven. Yin linking vessel controls the interior, earth. Yang stepping vessel controls the left, right of yang, east. Yin stepping vessel controls the left, right of yin, west. Governing vessel controls the back, yang, south. Directing penetrating vessels control front, in, north. Girdle vessel binds. And you can see, like, how I will always draw them how it always kind of looks like an atom with the electrons going around it. The extraordinary vessels can be grouped in two different ways as described above according to their opening and coupled points. They can be arranged into 4 pairs of vessels at the same polarity. So I'm going to skip over the points and how to use them because I'm going to go into detail on that in the opening and closing points and how to use them. And I'm going to go into detail on that in the second part 2. There's going to be 3 parts to extraordinary vessels. And here I'm just going to finish off the introduction with when to use an extraordinary vessel. And Giovanni states that the guidelines given for choosing to use extraordinary vessels would be in problems of internal organs or in channel problems. For example, if a patient suffers from liver qi stagnation, we can use points on the liver main channel and we do not need to use the extraordinary vessel. But if a patient suffers from straightforward, if they're suffering from a straightforward channel problem, along with a particular channel, we may use main channel. But if there are many situations when the extraordinary vessel is indicated, and they would be like several channels of problems of several channels simultaneously, complicated conditions, involvement of an internal organ with a different channel, confusing situations of heat and cold, deficiency and excess, some mental problems, some neurological problems, or when the pulse has the same quality in several positions. So to use an extraordinary vessel would be in problems of several channels simultaneously, in complicated conditions, when there's an involvement of an organ and a different channel, in confusing situations of heat and cold and fullness and emptiness, and in some mental problems, some neurological problems, and when the pulse has the quality in different positions. So that concludes the introduction to extraordinary meridians from Giovanni Maziosa. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you got something out of it that you can bring to your own studying station and your own exams and your own theory and knowledge. And if nothing makes sense right now, that's 100% okay. That's how it probably should be. But just keep listening, keep reading, and it will slowly start to, and keep living your life, like truly thirsty for knowledge, because if you, and not just in one line of thinking, learn everything, because every little thing you learn in this lifetime will help you understand this stuff better. That's why they say, you're not supposed to be like Lao Tzu, you're not supposed to go off into the mountains and leave the city and run away. You have to learn to live with the people, with the world, before you can leave it. Right? And they say, oh, old boy, or you can't be gray. It's not until you're gray of hair that this stuff, really comes to you. But just remember that when it comes to extraordinary meridians, and everything in Chinese medicine, your intention is everything. So you can stick a bunch of needles in somebody and you can say, oh, yeah, I'm treating this, this, and this, and this, and and write it all down and be this, But if there's no intention behind what you're doing, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, how the hell are you going to help somebody? Right? And so we can say like, oh, yeah, I'm treating this person's eyes won't close. Okay, I'm opening Yang Chao Mai, this person, and you can look at it like that. Or when you really know what's going on behind that and you're treating that, you're not really saying anything, but really what's going on, and really why really what that's all about. That's what I'm trying to say. So your ability to be an amazing practitioner comes down to your own knowledge and your own intention. And that's all I'm going to say for today. And R.I.P. Giovanni Maziosa, we miss you, we love you, and thank you for your knowledge. And we're going to get into Cam Deadman, the web that has no weaver, as well as Huang Denejing Su Wen and Giovanni's chapter on extraordinary meridians and how to use them in the part 2 video. And an outro will be on my theories a little bit. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see if I feel like sharing those. And then the part 3 is still up in the air. I haven't decided. We'll see how long part 2 goes, but depending, there might have to be a part 3. So please subscribe to my channel, TCM Classics 9 on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And every subscription counts. It's free. You don't, it costs nothing. It's anonymous. And I would love to be able to be eligible to earn once I get to 500 subscribers. It would mean a lot to me. This is my passion. This is what I love. So, every subscription counts, and I would love for you to subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful day and rest of your week, and stay tuned for what's coming next.